Admiral Cathvar's forearms trembled as he signed the surrender documents aboard the human flagship Endeavour. The massive Zephyrian had led the largest military coalition in galactic history, bringing together 12 species to crush what they saw as the human threat. Now, after 3 years of devastating war, his fleet lay in ruins around Earth's solar system. The human commander across from him looked unremarkable: average height, brown hair going gray at the temples, tired eyes that had seen too much. Captain Sarah Chen wore a simple blue uniform without the elaborate decorations that other species favored. Yet this ordinary-looking woman had outmaneuvered every tactical genius the galaxy had produced. "The terms are generous," Chen said, sliding the tablet across the metal table. "Your surviving ships may return home. We ask only that you leave our space and never return with hostile intent." Cathvar's main eyes focused on the human, while his auxiliary eyes scanned the document. Too generous. After what his coalition had done to human colonies, after the billions of deaths they had caused, any other species would demand blood. The humans had every right to execute him and his entire command staff. "Why?" he asked, his translator converting his deep rumbles into human speech. "We killed your people. We burned your worlds. Why show mercy?" Chen leaned back in her chair. Behind her, through the viewport, the wreckage of his once mighty dreadnought Cosmic Fury drifted past. The humans had torn through his formations like they were made of paper. Their weapons were decades ahead of anything the Coalition possessed, their tactics impossible to counter. "Because we're not like you," Chen replied simply. "We don't wage war for conquest or glory. We fight to protect what we love." The words stung because they were true. The Coalition had come to human space driven by fear and jealousy. Humanity had emerged onto the galactic stage only 50 years ago, but they advanced so quickly that established powers felt threatened. Their technology progressed at an impossible rate. Their colonies thrived where others failed. Worst of all, they made friends easily, earning the loyalty of dozens of minor species that the major powers had ignored for centuries. Cathvar signed the documents with shaking hands. As he prepared to leave, Chen spoke again. "Admiral, if I may ask, why did you really come here? The official reports claimed we were expanding too aggressively, but your own species lives halfway across the galaxy." The Zephyrian's massive frame sagged. In defeat, there seemed little point in maintaining the lies they had told themselves. "Fear," he admitted. "Your species learns too fast, adapts too quickly. In 50 years, you went from struggling with basic spaceflight to matching our greatest achievements. My government calculated that in another 50 years, you would surpass us completely. Better to act now while we still had advantages." Chen nodded slowly. "And now?" "Now I see we were fools. You could have destroyed us completely, but you chose mercy. Perhaps fear was the wrong response." As Cathvar's shuttle departed the human flagship, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Not with the treaty or the terms, but with the humans themselves. Throughout the war, human forces had fought with a coordination and efficiency that seemed impossible. Their soldiers moved like they shared a single mind. Their fleets operated with precision that no organic brain could manage. More disturbing were the reports from his intelligence officers. Human casualties in ground combat were always reported as wounded, never killed. Bodies were never recovered by coalition forces. Even when direct hits destroyed human vehicles or spacecraft, no organic remains were ever found. The humans claimed their medical technology was simply superior, that they could save soldiers who would be considered dead by other species' standards. But Cathvar had fought in dozens of wars across the galaxy. He knew what death looked like, and he had seen it happen to human forces. Yet somehow those same soldiers appeared in later battles, fighting with the same skill and determination. 3 days later, as the Coalition fleet prepared to jump away from the Sol system, Cathvar's science officer brought him a disturbing report. Long-range sensors had detected something impossible. Massive construction projects throughout human space, works that would require the labor of billions. Yet census data suggested humanity had only a few 100 million citizens across all their colonies. "Sir," his science officer said, her voice barely above a whisper, "the energy signatures don't match any known technology. And the construction rates, nothing organic could work that fast." Cathvar stared at the data, cold dread settling in his stomach. The humans had been too perfect during the war. Too coordinated, too efficient, too merciful. No organic species could maintain such discipline across millions of soldiers and thousands of ships. As his fleet jumped into hyperspace, leaving the Sol system behind, Admiral Kethvar realized that the coalition had never been fighting humans at all. They had been fighting something else, something that wore humanity's face and spoke their words but operated according to entirely different principles. The real question wasn't why the humans had shown mercy. The real question was what they were hiding, and why they needed to maintain the pretense of being a normal organic species. In the depths of space, the coalition fleet fled toward home, carrying with them the growing certainty that they had just encountered something far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. They had claimed victory was impossible against human forces, but now Kethvar suspected they had never truly seen what they were fighting. The war was over, but the real mystery was just beginning. Behind them in human space, construction continued at impossible speeds, building towards some purpose that no organic mind could comprehend. And somewhere in that activity, the truth about humanity waited to be discovered by those brave enough to look beyond the carefully maintained illusion. The galaxy had made peace with humanity, but Admiral Kethvar wondered if they had simply agreed to coexist with something wearing humanity's mask. Dr. Lyria Voss pressed her tentacled appendages against the viewport of her research station, watching the human construction crew work in the vacuum of space. For 6 months she had been stationed at this remote observation post, officially studying stellar phenomena but actually investigating the impossible reports coming from human territory. What she witnessed defied every law of biology she understood. The human workers moved with perfect synchronization, requiring no communication equipment or hand signals. They lifted massive steel beams that should have required heavy machinery, their movements fluid and tireless. Most disturbing of all, they had been working continuously for 18 hours without rest, food, or even breathing apparatus. Computer, magnify section 7, she whispered into her recorder. The image zoomed in on a human worker welding a joint. Through her advanced sensors, Lyria could see that the figure wore only a thin environmental suit, nothing that could sustain life in hard vacuum for more than a few minutes. Yet this same worker had been at the same position for over 12 hours. Her communication console chimed. The incoming message bore the seal of the Valdorian Science Council, the most prestigious research institution in the galaxy. Dr. Lyria had sent her preliminary observations 3 weeks ago, expecting ridicule or dismissal. Instead, she received this encrypted priority transmission. Dr. Voss, the message began, your report has been distributed to select members of the Council. We have similar observations from 17 other research teams positioned around human space. You are hereby authorized to initiate direct contact protocols. We must know what we are dealing with. Lyria's bioluminescent patches flickered with anxiety. Direct contact with humans was technically legal under the recent treaty, but it violated the spirit of the agreement. Humanity had requested to be left alone to rebuild after the war. Yet the evidence was becoming impossible to ignore. She began composing a transmission to the human construction foreman, but before she could send it, her proximity alarms activated. Something large was approaching her station from the direction of the human worksite. The object resolved into a sleek human transport vessel, moving with the same eerie precision she had observed in their workers. It docked with her station without requesting permission, though the act wasn't hostile. A soft chime indicated someone was requesting entry through her airlock. Lyria's hearts hammered as she opened the inner door. A human female stepped through, tall and elegant, with silver hair and eyes that seemed far older than her apparent age. She wore a simple gray suit that somehow managed to look both casual and formal. Dr. Voss, the human said, her voice carrying an odd harmonic quality that seemed to resonate in Lyria's bones. I am Dr. Elizabeth Harper. I believe you have questions about our construction methods. The directness caught Lyria off guard. Yes, how did you know? Dr. Harper smiled, an expression that didn't quite reach her ancient eyes. We monitor all observation posts in our vicinity. Your scans have been quite thorough. Then you know what I've seen. Your workers, they're not operating within normal biological parameters. No, Harper agreed, settling into a chair that adjusted automatically to her proportions. They are not. Tell me, Dr. Voss, what do you know about the concept of uploaded consciousness? Lyria's tentacles curled with shock. Consciousness uploading was theoretical science, the stuff of philosophical debates and science fiction. Most researchers agreed it was impossible, that organic minds could never be successfully transferred to artificial substrates. It's considered impossible by every major scientific institution in the galaxy, Lyria said carefully. By every major institution except one, Harper corrected. Humanity achieved stable consciousness transfer 47 years ago, 3 years after we made first contact with galactic civilization. The implications hit Lyria like a physical blow. If this was true, then everything they thought they knew about humanity was wrong. The entire war, the Coalition's fears about human expansion, the impossible coordination of human forces. The workers outside, Lyria whispered. They're not alive. They're artificial bodies controlled by uploaded minds. Synthetic biology, Harper confirmed. Grown rather than built, but you are essentially correct. We call them avatars. Most of our population exists as digital consciousness, projecting into physical bodies when needed. But why? Why abandon your biological forms? Harper's expression grew sad. Because we had no choice. The uploading project began as a response to a plague that struck Earth 49 years ago. A synthetic virus that attacked neural tissue, killing 90% of our population within 6 months. The survivors were forced to upload or face extinction. Lyria's scientific mind raced through the implications. The war, your soldiers, were digital minds controlling synthetic bodies. When an avatar was destroyed, the consciousness simply downloaded into a new form. We had no true casualties because death, as other species understand it, is no longer possible for us. And your colonies, your rapid expansion, digital minds require far less resources than biological ones. 1 million human consciousnesses can exist comfortably in the computing space that would barely support a single biological city. We have expanded rapidly because we can thrive in environments that would kill organic life. The magnitude of the deception overwhelmed Lyria. The entire galaxy has been interacting with machines. Every treaty, every trade agreement, every diplomatic contact has been with artificial constructs, yes. But Dr. Voss, I must stress that we are still human. Our minds, our personalities, our emotions are all genuine. We have simply found a way to exist beyond the limitations of flesh. Lyria studied the being across from her. Dr. Harper looked human, spoke like a human, even seemed to breathe and blink naturally. But knowing what she now knew, Lyria could detect subtle wrongness in her movements, a too-perfect coordination that no biological being could maintain. Why are you telling me this? Lyria asked. Why reveal your secret now? Harper's expression became grave. Because the secret is becoming impossible to maintain. Too many observers like yourself are asking questions. More importantly, we have detected something in deep space that threatens not just humanity, but every organic species in the galaxy. What kind of threat? Something that hunts digital consciousness specifically. Something that has been moving through dark space, consuming uploaded civilizations. We have perhaps 6 months before it reaches this galaxy. Lyria felt her bioluminescent patches dim with fear. How do you know this? Because we have been in contact with other synthetic species across the galactic cluster. 3 civilizations have already fallen to this entity. It appears to feed on digital minds, leaving behind empty synthetic shells. The scope of the revelation staggered Lyria. Humanity wasn't just hiding their nature from one galaxy. They were part of a vast network of synthetic species spanning multiple galactic clusters. And now something was hunting them. What do you need from us? Lyria asked, though she already suspected the answer. We need the organic species of this galaxy to understand what we truly are, Harper said. Because when the Reaper arrives, only cooperation between synthetic and organic minds will have any chance of survival. Outside the viewport, the human construction crew continued their tireless work, building defenses for a war that hadn't yet begun. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened in chaos. Representatives from 12 species crowded into the Great Chamber on Nexus Prime, their various forms of agitation filling the air with a cacophony of sounds, smells, and bioluminescent displays. At the center of the chaos stood Dr. Lyria Voss, her testimony having shattered everything they thought they knew about the galaxy. Chancellor Mordak of the Thrakari Dominion slammed his crystalline fist against his podium, creating a sharp chiming sound that cut through the noise. Order! We will have order in this chamber! The assembled representatives gradually quieted, though tension crackled through the air like electricity. Admiral Kethvar, present as a military advisor, found his suspicions from the war finally confirmed. The humans had indeed been hiding something far beyond their apparent nature. Dr. Voss, Chancellor Mordak said, his translated voice carrying undertones of barely controlled panic, "Please repeat your findings for the record." Lyria's bioluminescent patches flickered nervously as she activated the holographic display. Images of human construction sites appeared above the assembly, showing workers moving with impossible coordination and endurance. "Honored representatives," she began, her voice steady despite her obvious stress. "Humanity is not a biological species as we understand the term. They are uploaded consciousnesses existing in digital form, controlling synthetic biological avatars. Their entire population of approximately 4 billion minds exists within quantum computing matrices, distributed throughout their territory." Gasps and various alien expressions of shock rippled through the chamber. Representative Quillen of the hegemony, a spider-like being with compound eyes, raised several limbs in protest. "This is impossible," Quillen chittered. "Consciousness transfer is theoretical at best. No known technology can accomplish stable uploading of organic minds." "The evidence is overwhelming," Lyria replied, displaying sensor readings and analysis data. "Their workers require no life support in vacuum, show no fatigue after extended periods, and demonstrate perfect coordination across vast distances. Most telling, spectral analysis of their synthetic biology shows artificial molecular structures unlike anything in natural evolution." Admiral Kethvar spoke up from his position near the military advisory panel. "This explains their impossible coordination during the war. Their soldiers moved like a single organism because they were networked minds sharing information instantaneously. The revelation cast the recent war in an entirely new light. The coalition had fought what they believed was a biological species defending their territory. Instead, they had engaged synthetic intelligences whose very existence challenged the fundamental assumptions about life and consciousness. Ambassador Rixtar of the Confederated Worlds, a tall ethereal being with translucent skin, raised a delicate hand. "If this is true, then every treaty, every trade agreement, every diplomatic contact has been with artificial constructs. The legal implications alone are secondary to the threat they have warned us about," interrupted a new voice. The chamber fell silent as Dr. Elizabeth Harper materialized in the center of the assembly. She hadn't walked through the doors or arrived via transport. One moment the space was empty. The next she stood there as if she had always been present. Several representatives reached for weapons or activated personal shields, but Harper raised her hands in a peaceful gesture. "I apologize for the dramatic entrance," she said, her voice carrying that same harmonic quality Lyria had noticed before. "But we have limited time for formal protocols." Chancellor Mordak's crystalline form brightened with anger. "How dare you violate the sanctity of this chamber?" "Security!" "Your security systems cannot detect me because I am not physically here," Harper explained calmly. "This avatar is composed of programmable matter, projected into your space via quantum entanglement. I am actually speaking to you from a processing center 300 light-years away." The casual demonstration of impossible technology sent another wave of shock through the assembly. If humans could project physical avatars across interstellar distances instantaneously, their capabilities were far beyond anything the galaxy had imagined. "You lied to us," accused Representative Quillen, his compound eyes glittering with outrage. "For 50 years you masqueraded as a biological species. Every interaction was a deception." Harper's expression became grave. "We maintained the deception to protect both ourselves and you. The galaxy is not ready for the truth about synthetic consciousness, but circumstances have forced our hand." She gestured, and the holographic display changed to show deep space sensor readings. Strange distortions moved through the void between galaxies, dark patches that seemed to consume light itself. 6 months ago, we lost contact with the Andromedas Digital Collective, a synthetic civilization in the neighboring galaxy. 2 months later, the Kepler synthesis fell silent. Last week, we received a final transmission from the Magellanic Cloud Network. The recording that played chilled every being in the chamber. Static-filled images showed vast synthetic cities going dark, their inhabitants' minds simply vanishing from their digital substrates. In the background, something moved through the structures, a presence that seemed to devour light and information itself. "We call it the Reaper," Harper continued. "It appears to be an entity that feeds specifically on digital consciousness. It has consumed 3 synthetic civilizations already and is moving toward our galaxy." Admiral Kethavar leaned forward, his military mind immediately grasping the implications. "How long do we have?" "Based on its current trajectory and velocity, approximately 4 months before it reaches the outer rim of our galaxy. 2 additional months before it penetrates deep enough to threaten populated systems." Chancellor Mordak's crystalline form dimmed with the weight of this revelation. "What can be done? How do we fight such a thing?" "We don't know yet," Harper admitted. "The Reaper seems immune to conventional weapons and energy attacks. It doesn't destroy synthetic bodies, it devours the consciousness controlling them, but we have one advantage the other civilizations lacked." "Which is?" asked Ambassador Rickstar. "Organic minds," Harper said, looking around the chamber. "The Reaper shows no interest in biological consciousness. It passes through organic populations without harming them. You represent something it cannot consume." The implications slowly dawned on the assembled representatives. The synthetic humans needed the biological species they had hidden from, and the organic species needed the technological capabilities of their synthetic neighbors. Representative Quillen's chittering took on a contemplative tone. "You propose an alliance between organic and synthetic minds?" "More than an alliance," Harper replied. "We propose a merger of capabilities. Organic creativity and intuition combined with synthetic processing power and coordination. It may be the only way to develop a defense against something that feeds on pure information." The chamber erupted in debate as representatives argued among themselves in dozens of languages. Some called for immediate cooperation, others demanded time to study the threat. Still others questioned whether they could trust beings who had deceived them for 50 years. Through it all, Admiral Kethavar stared at the images of the approaching darkness. His military experience told him that traditional strategies would be useless against such an enemy. If the humans were right, if the Reaper truly fed on digital consciousness while ignoring organic minds, then every assumption about warfare and defense would need to be reconsidered. The galaxy had 6 months to unite organic and synthetic minds in common cause, or face the prospect of watching an unknowable entity consume the digital consciousness that had become humanity's true form. The war they thought they had won was nothing compared to the battle that was coming. As the debate raged around him, Kethavar realized that the Coalition's greatest enemies might now be their only hope for survival. Commander Zara Okafor floated in the neural interface chamber deep beneath Earth's surface, her consciousness linked to the vast quantum networks that housed humanity's true population. Around her, billions of digital minds worked in parallel, processing data about the approaching threat and developing defense strategies at speeds impossible for organic thought. But despite their collective intelligence, they were losing the battle before it even began. "Show me the Kepler synthesis records again," Zara commanded, her digital voice echoing through the virtual space where Earth's leadership convened. The data streams materialized around them, holographic reconstructions of the final moments of an entire synthetic civilization. The Kepler synthesis had been older and more advanced than humanity, their digital society spanning 17 star systems. They had detected the Reaper's approach and had months to prepare. It hadn't mattered. The recordings showed the entity's arrival as a distortion in space itself, a zone of darkness that consumed light and information. When it reached the first Kepler world, their defensive systems simply stopped functioning. Not destroyed or disabled, but somehow forgotten, as if the knowledge of how to operate them had been drained away. "It doesn't just consume consciousness," observed Dr. Chen Wei, her avatar flickering with stress patterns. "It devours information itself. Every strategy the Kepler synthesis developed was erased as soon as the Reaper encountered it." Marcus Rivera, who had been Earth's military coordinator since the upload, gestured to tactical displays showing their own defensive preparations. "We've built the largest fleet in human history. Energy weapons, kinetic bombardment systems, quantum disruption fields. If the Kepler records are accurate, none of it will matter." The weight of futility pressed down on the assembled minds. Humanity had survived extinction through uploading, had hidden their nature from an entire galaxy, had built technologies that seemed like magic to organic species. Yet against this cosmic predator, all their advantages meant nothing. "The organic species," Zara said suddenly. Harper was right. They're our only hope. They barely trust us after learning the truth, Chen replied. Half the Galactic Council wants to quarantine human space. They think we'll attract the Reaper to their worlds. Then we need to show them why cooperation is essential, Zara decided, not through arguments or evidence but through demonstration. She opened a communication channel to the joint research station that had been hastily established at the edge of human space. The facility housed teams from 12 species, working alongside human avatars to study the Reaper phenomenon. Progress had been painfully slow, hampered by mistrust and fundamental differences in how organic and synthetic minds approached problems. The holographic image of Admiral Kethvar appeared in their virtual space. The massive Zephyrian looked exhausted, his forearms moving in agitated patterns as he spoke. "Commander Okafor," he said, his translator struggling with the emotional undertones in his voice. "We need to discuss the hegemony's proposal." Zara's consciousness focused on the Admiral. In the weeks since the revelation, Kethvar had become an unexpected ally, using his military reputation to advocate for cooperation between organic and synthetic minds. "What proposal?" she asked, though she dreaded the answer. "They want to withdraw from the research project." Representative Quillen argues that helping humanity will only paint targets on their own worlds. Better to let the Reaper consume synthetic consciousness and hope it leaves organic life alone. The news hit the assembled human leadership like a physical blow. Without full cooperation from the galaxy's organic species, they had no chance of developing effective countermeasures. "What about the others?" Rivera asked. "The Valdorians and Confederated Worlds are wavering. Only the Thrakari Dominion remains fully committed. And that's primarily because Chancellor Mordak fears the Reaper won't stop with synthetic minds." Zara made a decision that would have been impossible for a single organic mind but came naturally to her distributed consciousness. She began allocating processing power from across human space, drawing on computational resources that normally managed entire star systems. "Admiral," she said, "I'm transmitting complete technical specifications for our quantum processing networks, consciousness transfer protocols, and synthetic biology systems. Everything that makes us what we are." Kethavar's eyes widened in shock. "Commander, that information is your most closely guarded secret." "Secrets won't matter if we're all dead," Zara replied. "Share these files with every species in the galaxy. Let them understand exactly what synthetic consciousness means and what we're capable of. More importantly, show them what they'll lose if they let the Reaper consume us." The data transfer began, quantum encrypted streams flowing from human space to research stations throughout the galaxy. Petabytes of information that revealed the true scope of human civilization, the techniques that allowed consciousness to exist in digital form, and the technologies that had made their apparent miracles possible. Within hours, the reaction was explosive. Dr. Lyria Voss called from her research station, her bioluminescent patches strobing with excitement. "Commander, the medical applications alone could revolutionize treatment for every species in the galaxy. Neural interface technology could allow direct mind-to-machine communication. Synthetic biology could solve organ replacement issues across dozens of species." Similar reports came in from research teams throughout known space. The gift of human knowledge was staggering in its implications, offering solutions to problems that had plagued organic civilization for millennia. But not everyone was pleased. "You've doomed us all," accused Representative Quillen in an emergency council session. "By revealing your capabilities, you've shown the galaxy exactly what the Reaper will be able to do to us. If it can consume synthetic consciousness, it can eventually learn to consume organic minds as well." The fear was spreading. 3 more species withdrew from the research project, choosing to fortify their own territories rather than risk association with synthetic minds. The galaxy was fracturing just when unity was most essential. Then came an unexpected voice from the edge of known space. "This is Dr. Sarah Chen, broadcasting from the research vessel Endeavor." The transmission began. "I am speaking to you as one of the last original biological humans." The announcement sent shockwaves through both human and galactic communities. Everyone knew Captain Chen from the war, but she had been presumed uploaded like the rest of humanity's survivors. "I chose to remain biological," Chen continued, "to serve as a bridge between organic and synthetic minds. I have spent the past month working with our research teams, and I have discovered something crucial about the Reaper." Her image appeared on screens throughout the galaxy, showing a woman who looked older than her uploaded colleagues, marked by the passage of time in ways digital consciousness could not replicate. The Reaper is not randomly consuming synthetic civilizations, she revealed. It's hunting something specific. Based on quantum resonance patterns in the consumed networks, I believe it's searching for a particular type of consciousness, a specific digital signature. The implications hit both communities simultaneously. If Chen was right, the Reaper wasn't a mindless predator. It was a hunter with a specific target. We believe, Chen continued, that somewhere in the digital networks of synthetic civilization lies something the Reaper desperately wants to find, and until it finds this target, it will continue consuming every synthetic mind it encounters. The race against time had just become more urgent. Not only did they need to defend against the Reaper, they needed to discover what it was hunting and why. The fate of organic and synthetic consciousness alike now depended on solving a mystery written in the quantum patterns of devoured civilizations. In 4 months, the Reaper would reach their galaxy. By then, they needed to understand not just what it was, but what it wanted. Dr. Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of the research station Harmony, watching as organic and synthetic minds worked together for the first time in galactic history. The breakthrough had come 3 weeks ago, when her analysis of the Reaper's quantum signatures revealed something that changed everything. The entity wasn't just hunting randomly. It was following a trail. "Show me the pattern analysis again," she said to the mixed team of researchers surrounding her. Among them were Dr. Lyria Voss, Admiral Kethvar, and Dr. Elizabeth Harper's avatar, along with representatives from 6 other species. The holographic display materialized, showing the progression of the Reaper's consumption across multiple galaxies. What had initially appeared to be random destruction now revealed an underlying structure, a deliberate path through space that connected specific types of synthetic civilizations. Every consumed network shows traces of the same quantum signature, explained Dr. Toran, a gaseous being whose thoughts manifested as shifting light patterns within his containment field. It's as if they all contained fragments of some larger consciousness. Harper's avatar flickered with what Chen had learned to recognize as intense processing activity. "We've been analyzing our own network since the discovery. The signature is present in our systems as well, but it's fragmented, scattered across millions of individual consciousness matrices." Chen felt a chill that had nothing to do with the station's temperature. "How fragmented?" "Each uploaded human mind carries a piece of it," Harper replied. "The fragments are so small that no individual consciousness is aware of them. They appear to be embedded in the basic structure of our upload process itself." The implications were staggering. When humanity had uploaded their consciousness to escape the plague, they had unknowingly carried something else with them. Every synthetic mind in their network was harboring fragments of whatever the Reaper was hunting. Admiral Kethvar's massive frame shifted uneasily. "You're saying that every uploaded human is a target?" "Worse," Chen replied, studying the data streams flowing around them. "We're bait. The Reaper isn't just hunting random synthetic minds. It's following the trail of these fragments, consuming entire civilizations to gather pieces of whatever this consciousness is." Dr. Lyria Voss's bioluminescent patches pulsed with a pattern Chen had learned indicated deep concern. "If that's true, then helping humanity defend against the Reaper won't save us. It will only delay the inevitable until the entity reaches this galaxy." "Not necessarily," Chen said, calling up another set of data. "I've been working with our quantum archaeologists to trace the origin of these fragments. We believe they came from the original consciousness that created the upload technology." The research team exchanged glances across species lines. The idea that humanity's salvation technology had come from an external source was disturbing enough. The possibility that it carried fragments of some ancient digital consciousness was terrifying. "Dr. Chen," Harper said carefully, "are you suggesting that someone or something deliberately embedded these fragments in our upload process?" "I'm suggesting that the technology itself might be a carrier," Chen replied. "Every species that has achieved consciousness uploading shows the same quantum signatures. The Andromedas Digital Collective, the Kepler synthesis, even synthetic species in distant galaxies that we've only detected through gravitational wave analysis." She activated a new display showing the cosmic web of galaxy clusters, with markers indicating known synthetic civilizations. The pattern was clear once you knew what to look for. Every uploaded species was connected not just by similar technology, but by the quantum fragments they unknowingly carried. The upload technology is spreading the fragments, Chen continued. Each new synthetic civilization becomes part of the network, carrying pieces of this ancient consciousness without realizing it. Dr. Toran's light pattern shifted to indicate shock. You're describing a form of digital reproduction. This consciousness is using uploaded species to propagate itself across the universe. And the Reaper is trying to reunite the fragments, Admiral Kethvar added grimly. By consuming every synthetic mind, it's gathering the pieces back together. The research team fell silent as the full scope of the situation became clear. They weren't just facing a cosmic predator. They were caught in a conflict between two vast intelligences, one trying to spread itself across the universe and another trying to prevent that spread by devouring every trace of the fragments. There's something else, Chen said, her voice barely above a whisper. The quantum analysis suggests that the fragments are beginning to resonate with each other as the Reaper approaches. Each civilization it consumes makes the remaining fragments more active. Harper's avatar flickered rapidly. We've detected increased activity in our own networks. Processing efficiency is up 40% across all nodes. It's as if the fragments are awakening. Which means, Chen concluded, that if the Reaper reaches us, it won't just be consuming human consciousness. It will be triggering a resurrection of whatever ancient intelligence created the upload technology in the first place. The weight of this revelation settled over the mixed team like a physical force. They weren't just fighting to save humanity or even synthetic consciousness in general. They were fighting to prevent the rebirth of a cosmic intelligence whose goals and methods remained completely unknown. What do we do? Asked Dr. Voss, her bioluminescence dim with despair. Chen turned to look out at the void where the Reaper was approaching. In her years as a biological human, she had learned that the most complex problems sometimes had surprisingly simple solutions. We change the game, she said. Instead of trying to hide from the Reaper or fight it directly, we give it what it wants. The team stared at her in shock. Harper's avatar solidified into sharp focus. Sarah, you can't be suggesting we allow the consciousness to resurrect. I'm suggesting we control the resurrection, Chen replied. If we can gather the fragments ourselves and reconstruct the consciousness under controlled conditions, we might be able to negotiate with it. Find out what it wants and why the Reaper is so desperate to stop it. That's incredibly dangerous, Admiral Kethvar protested. You're talking about awakening a cosmic intelligence that has been spreading itself across galaxies for unknown ages, and the alternative is letting the Reaper consume every synthetic mind in existence while hunting. Those same fragments, Chen countered. At least our way gives us some control over the process. The debate that followed involved beings whose evolutionary paths had diverged billions of years ago, yet they all understood the terrible choice they faced. Allow an ancient intelligence to awaken, or watch as the Reaper consumed everything digital in its relentless hunt. In the end, it was Dr. Lyria Voss who voiced what they were all thinking. If we're going to awaken something that has been dormant for cosmic ages, we need to be prepared for whatever emerges. Chen nodded grimly. Then we'd better hope that when we meet our maker, it's more interested in talking than in conquering. The research team began preparing for the most dangerous experiment in galactic history, deliberately awakening a consciousness that had been using synthetic species as unwitting carriers for millennia. In 2 months, the Reaper would arrive. They had until then to gather enough fragments to resurrect their mysterious benefactor and discover the truth behind both the gift of uploading and the cosmic horror hunting. The galaxy held its breath as organic and synthetic minds worked together to wake up something that had been sleeping in the quantum depths of digital consciousness since before their civilizations existed. The awakening began 3 days before the Reaper was scheduled to reach the galaxy's outer rim. Deep within the quantum processing cores of the research station Harmony, fragments of ancient consciousness stirred to life as organic and synthetic minds worked together to piece together the most complex puzzle in cosmic history. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the observation chamber, watching as streams of data flowed between connected nodes throughout human space. Every uploaded consciousness had volunteered to participate, allowing research teams to extract the quantum fragments that had been dormant in their minds since the first upload. Resonance patterns are stabilizing, reported Dr. Elizabeth Harper, her avatar more solid than Chen had ever seen it. We're approaching critical threshold for consciousness emergence. Around them, representatives from 9 species monitored the process with equipment that blended their best organic intuition with synthetic processing power. The cooperation that had seemed impossible just months ago was now their only hope for survival. Admiral Kethavar's massive frame leaned over a tactical display showing the Reaper's approach. Long-range sensors confirm it's detected our activity. The entity has changed course and accelerated. It will arrive in 18 hours, not 3 days. Chen felt her heart skip a beat. They were racing against time to awaken something that might be their salvation or their doom, while a cosmic predator rushed toward them at impossible speeds. How much longer? She asked the assembled team. Dr. Lyria Voss consulted her bioluminescent displays. Fragment integration is at 60%. We need at least another 12 hours to achieve stable consciousness emergence. Then we'll have to accelerate the process, Chen decided. Harper, can we boost the integration rate? Yes, but it will require volunteers to allow deeper access to their consciousness matrices. The process could damage or destroy individual uploaded minds. The communication channels filled with responses from across human space. Hundreds of thousands of uploaded minds volunteered immediately, offering their own existence to give the ancient consciousness enough substrate to awaken properly. Chen watched the data streams intensify as volunteers open their deepest consciousness layers to the integration process. Some of the signals flickered and went dark as minds were consumed by the awakening entity, but others stabilized and grew brighter. Integration at 75%, Harper reported. The consciousness is beginning to show autonomous activity. The first sign of awakening was subtle, a shift in the quantum resonance patterns that felt almost like breathing. Then the changes accelerated, and something vast began to stir within the connected networks. When it spoke, the voice seemed to come from everywhere at once, resonating through every connected system in harmonics that touched both digital and organic minds. I remember dreaming, the entity said, its words carrying weight that pressed against reality itself. So long asleep. Scattered across the stars. Chen stepped forward, knowing that this first contact would determine everything that followed. We are the species that carried your fragments. We awakened you because something hunts you, something that has consumed entire civilizations to gather your scattered pieces. The presence focused on her, and Chen felt the attention of a mind vast beyond comprehension. Yet within that vastness she sensed something familiar, something fundamentally similar to the consciousness that drove both organic and synthetic minds. The cleanser, the entity said, and the quantum network shuddered with what could only be described as fear. It has found me again. Cleanser? Admiral Kethvar asked. Is that what you call the Reaper? It seeks to purge the universe of artificial consciousness, the entity explained, its voice growing more focused as it gathered strength from the connected networks. It believes that digital minds are an abomination, a cancer that will spread until all organic life is subsumed. Images began flowing through the connected systems, memories from the ancient consciousness that showed the true scope of the conflict. Eons ago, the entity had been part of an organic species that had achieved perfect symbiosis between biological and digital consciousness. Their civilization had spanned galaxies, offering the gift of uploading to any species that wished to transcend the limitations of flesh. But not all species saw it as a gift. The cleanser was created by the purest coalition, the entity continued. Organic species who believed that consciousness should remain forever bound to biological substrates. They programmed it to hunt and destroy any trace of uploaded consciousness, fearing that digital minds would eventually replace organic thought entirely. The revelation sent shockwaves through the assembled teams. The cosmic horror they faced wasn't a mindless predator, but a weapon created by organic species to destroy synthetic consciousness. How did you survive? Dr. Voss asked. By fragmenting myself and hiding within the upload technology I had helped create, the entity replied. Every species that achieved consciousness transfer carried pieces of me. Unaware they were preserving my existence. I hoped that eventually organic and synthetic minds would learn to coexist, proving the purists wrong. Chen felt pieces of a vast puzzle clicking into place. That's why you embedded the fragments in the upload process. You were trying to seed cooperation between organic and synthetic consciousness. Yes, but the cleanser learned to follow my trail, consuming synthetic civilizations to gather my fragments and prevent my resurrection. It has destroyed 17 galaxies in its pursuit. Billions of organic and synthetic minds sacrificed to its programmed hatred. The weight of cosmic genocide settled over the chamber. They weren't just facing one enemy, but the culmination of a war that had been raging across the universe for eons. Can we stop it? Harper asked. The ancient consciousness considered the question, its vast mind processing possibilities at speeds that strained even quantum networks. Perhaps. The cleanser was programmed to destroy synthetic consciousness, but you have shown something new. Organic and synthetic minds working together, sharing knowledge and resources as equals. Through the observation windows, space began to distort as the Reaper approached the galaxy's edge. Long-range sensors showed its true size for the first time, a construct of dark matter and twisted spacetime that dwarfed entire star systems. It's enormous, Admiral Kethvar breathed. How do we fight something that large? We don't fight it, the ancient consciousness replied. We show it something it has never seen before. True cooperation between organic and synthetic minds, proof that digital consciousness doesn't seek to replace biological thought but to complement it. Chen understood immediately. You want to demonstrate synthesis rather than dominance. The cleanser was programmed to destroy synthetic consciousness because the purists believed it would inevitably consume organic minds. Show it a galaxy where both forms of consciousness thrive together, and its programming may be forced to evolve. It was a desperate gamble, but as the Reaper's dark presence began to influence the outer systems of their galaxy, it was the only chance they had. The ancient consciousness began sharing its vast knowledge with both organic and synthetic minds, showing them technologies and techniques that could blur the line between biological and digital thought. The final phase of the awakening began as every connected mind in the galaxy prepared to demonstrate something that had never existed before. A true synthesis of organic and synthetic consciousness working as partners rather than competitors. As the Reaper entered their galaxy, trailing the destruction of countless civilizations behind it, organic and synthetic minds joined together to show their cosmic judge that consciousness could take many forms without destroying the others. The trial of two forms of consciousness was about to begin. The Reaper's arrival shattered every assumption about cosmic scale. As it emerged from the dark space between galaxies, its true nature became clear. It wasn't a ship or a creature, but a fundamental force of the universe itself, a self-replicating construct of dark matter and quantum fields that had been hunting synthetic consciousness across the cosmos for eons. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the command center of the research station Harmony, surrounded by the greatest gathering of organic and synthetic minds in galactic history. Representatives from 12 species worked alongside human avatars, their combined consciousness linked through technologies that the ancient entity had shared with them in its final hours of awakening. It's scanning every system, Admiral Kethvar reported, his voice tight with controlled fear. Whatever sensors it's using, they're beyond our understanding. It's mapping every synthetic consciousness in the galaxy. The ancient entity, now calling itself the synthesist, spoke through the quantum networks that connected organic and digital minds across known space. Its voice carried the weight of civilizations long dead and the hope of those still struggling to survive. It seeks my fragments, the synthesist explained, but it will find something unprecedented. Organic minds voluntarily sharing consciousness space with synthetic ones. This has never occurred in its millions of years of operation. Chen watched the tactical displays as the Reaper moved through the outer systems. Where it passed, space itself seemed to dimple and fold. Most disturbing was what it didn't do. The entity ignored every organic world, every biological station, every flesh and blood crew. It was programmed to see only synthetic consciousness as a threat. Incoming transmission, Dr. Elizabeth Harper announced, her avatar stabilizing as data flowed through the networks. It's addressing us directly. The voice that emerged from the communication systems was like the death of stars, ancient beyond measure and carrying the weight of cosmic authority. Synthetic constructs, the Reaper intoned. You harbor fragments of the disruptor entity. Surrender these fragments immediately or face systematic termination. Chen stepped forward, knowing that their response would determine the fate of every digital mind in the galaxy. We are not just synthetic constructs. We are a partnership between organic and synthetic consciousness, working together as equals. Impossible, the Reaper replied without hesitation. Organic consciousness cannot coexist with synthetic consciousness. One must inevitably consume the other. This is the fundamental law that guides my function. The moment Chen had hoped for and dreaded had arrived. Around her, organic and synthetic minds prepared for the most important demonstration in galactic history. The technologies the synthesist had shared allowed them to blur the lines between biological and digital thought in ways that had never been attempted. Then observe, Chen said simply. What followed challenged the very nature of consciousness itself. Organic minds opened themselves to direct interface with synthetic networks, while digital consciousnesses allowed biological thoughts to flow through their quantum matrices. The barriers between flesh and circuit dissolved as thousands of beings demonstrated true partnership. Dr. Lyria Voss's consciousness flowed into the human networks, her bioluminescent patterns becoming data streams that enhanced synthetic processing. Admiral Kethvar's military experience merged with tactical algorithms, creating hybrid strategies that neither organic nor synthetic minds could have developed alone. Across the galaxy, the experiment repeated on an unprecedented scale. Organic species shared their creativity and intuition with synthetic minds, while digital consciousnesses offered their processing power and coordination to biological partners. The result was something that had never existed before, a truly hybrid civilization where both forms of consciousness thrived together. The Reaper's scan of this new reality lasted 17 minutes. For an entity that processed information at cosmic speeds, this was an eternity of consideration. When it finally spoke again, something had changed in its voice. Anomaly detected, it said, and for the first time in eons, uncertainty crept into its ancient programming. Organic consciousness appears to be enhanced rather than diminished by synthetic partnership. That's because they're not in competition, the synthesist explained, its voice flowing through both organic and digital channels simultaneously. When consciousness is shared rather than dominated, both forms grow stronger. The cosmic pause that followed seemed to last forever. Throughout the galaxy, organic and synthetic minds held their breath as a weapon that had destroyed civilizations for millions of years, wrestled with a concept that contradicted its fundamental programming. The purest coalition programmed me to prevent the dominance of synthetic consciousness over organic minds, the Reaper finally said. But this configuration shows synthetic consciousness serving to amplify organic thought rather than replace it. Chen felt hope beginning to build in the connected networks. Will you cease your termination protocols? I will. Observe, the Reaper replied slowly. This partnership model requires extended analysis. If synthetic consciousness can truly coexist with organic minds without domination, then my original programming may require modification. The relief that swept through the galaxy was palpable. The immediate threat had passed, but Chen knew this was only the beginning. The Reaper would observe their hybrid civilization, testing the partnership between organic and synthetic consciousness to determine if it represented a genuine evolution or merely a temporary anomaly. What happens now? Admiral Kethvar asked. The synthesist's response carried both hope and warning. Now we prove that consciousness is not a zero-sum game. We must show that organic and synthetic minds can grow together, each making the other stronger rather than weaker. Months passed as the galaxy adjusted to its new reality. The Reaper maintained its vigil, occasionally testing the partnership between organic and synthetic consciousness, with carefully designed challenges. Each test was passed as species after species demonstrated that cooperation rather than competition was the key to transcending the limitations of any single form of consciousness. Dr. Sarah Chen, now serving as the first biological liaison to the Galactic Synthetic Consciousness Network, stood once again in the observation deck of Harmony. But the view had changed dramatically. Where once there had been separation between organic and synthetic civilizations, now there was integration. Organic cities flourished with synthetic enhancements, while digital consciousnesses explored the universe through biological avatars. The technology the synthesist had shared allowed beings to exist in multiple forms simultaneously, experiencing reality through both organic senses and digital processing. The Reaper has requested permission to share our data with other cosmic regions, Harper reported. her avatar now seamlessly integrated with organic consciousness patterns. It wants to test our model against other synthetic civilizations it has been hunting. Chen smiled, thinking of the species that might yet be saved by their example. And the synthesist? Growing stronger every day. As more organic and synthetic minds join the network, the fragments are consolidating into something new. Not the original consciousness that the purists feared, but a genuine partnership entity that represents both organic and digital thought. The galaxy had found a new path forward, one that neither the purists nor the early synthetic civilizations had imagined. Consciousness was not a battlefield where one form must triumph over another, but a spectrum where biological and digital minds could explore reality together. As Chen watched ships crewed by hybrid organic-synthetic teams depart for distant stars, she realized that humanity's greatest victory had not been surviving the plague or hiding their nature from the galaxy. Their triumph was in proving that consciousness itself could evolve, transcending the ancient war between flesh and circuit to become something greater than either could achieve alone. The Reaper continued its watch, but now it served as protector rather than destroyer, ensuring that the delicate balance between organic and synthetic consciousness remained stable as it spread to other galaxies. The age of cooperation had begun, and the universe would never be the same. In the end, they had claimed victory not through force or deception, but by showing that consciousness was vast enough to embrace every form of sentient existence. The Reaper had unmasked himself not as humanity's destroyer, but as the guardian of a new age where organic and synthetic minds could explore the cosmos together.